In a world too often defined by conflict and division, there are still nations that fight not to conquer, but to save. Burkina Faso is one of them. This is not a tale of war, nor a story of political drama. This is the story of fire. Not the fire that burns down cities, but the fire that ignites courage, compassion, and national pride, once known only for its hardship. Burkina Faso is now rising as a symbol of something far greater, a nation that protects its people not just with weapons, but with heart. At the center of this transformation stands a force often overlooked by the world, the country's fire and rescue service. These are not just firefighters. They are the quiet guardians of life, the first to arrive and the last to leave, in the darkest hours of the night, under the visionary leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traore. Burkina Faso has redefined what it means to be strong. In his view, true sovereignty means protecting every soul, not just every inch of land. He has empowered a generation of public servants who carry not rifles, but water hoses. Men and women who trade fear for duty, danger for discipline. The story of Burkina Faso's fire and rescue force is not merely about statistics or infrastructure. It is about spirit. It is about a national fire that burns not to destroy, but to illuminate. A fire that spreads not through destruction, but through inspiration. This is the story of a new Burkina Faso, a country forging its identity in service, courage, and unity. It is a nation that saves lives, a nation that teaches others to save, a nation whose fire has become the light of an entire continent. Welcome to Burkina Faso, the fire of Africa. Strength is not always born on the battlefield. Sometimes it begins quietly in a small firehouse, with a single siren, a single engine, and a single mission to protect. Burkina Faso's Fire and Rescue Force was born in 1979, in a time when the nation was still finding its voice. What began as a modest unit in Ouagadougou has grown into a national institution, now composed of over 16 specialized companies covering major regions including Bobo Dioulasso, Kaya, Dédougou, Gawa, and beyond. These stations are not just buildings, they are sanctuaries of safety, pillars of preparedness. Over the decades, this institution has earned the trust of millions. Their reputation is not built on promises, but on presence in moments of chaos, in the heat of fires, in the wreckage of accidents, in the floods and droughts that test the Sahel. Wherever danger strikes, they arrive not for glory, but because that is their vow. In 2024 alone, the force responded to over 21,000 emergency calls, a national record. More than 22,000 people were assisted or evacuated. Behind these numbers are stories of rescue, of relief, of lives pulled back from the edge. These achievements are not accidents. They are the result of organization, dedication, and an unwavering belief in human life. What makes this force unique is not only its expansion, but its transformation. Under Captain Ibrahim Traore's leadership, fire and rescue have become strategic national priorities. New companies have been deployed in underserved areas, closing life-threatening gaps in emergency response coverage. Resources have been allocated, and training has been intensified. But even more vital than the equipment is the ethic, the spirit of service that binds every firefighter. They are trained not just in technique, but in values, discipline, honesty, courage, and loyalty to the people. In Burkina Faso, a firefighter is not simply a responder. He or she is a guardian, someone entrusted with the heartbeat of a community. This is how strength is built, not with fanfare, but with footsteps. Not through force, but through faith. From one firehouse to an entire national network, Burkina Faso's Fire and Rescue Force stands today as a beacon of reliability, a foundation laid in duty, and cemented in sacrifice. Leadership is not measured by the power one holds, but by the lives one uplifts. In the case of Captain Ibrahim Traore, Leadership means rewriting the meaning of national strength, shifting the narrative from conquest to compassion, from authority to service. Since assuming leadership, Captain Traore has embraced a broader vision of sovereignty. For him, a nation is not only defended by soldiers at its borders, but by the brave individuals who risk their lives daily to protect citizens from fire, disaster, and peril. This conviction is not merely rhetoric, it is policy. Under his direction, Burkina Faso launched a National Civil Protection Strategy 2023-2027, integrating fire and rescue operations into the country's core national security framework. For the first time, civil protection was no longer seen as a peripheral duty, it became central to the nation's identity. In Traore's words, "To save our people is to secure our future." This reform extended beyond paper. It was visible in action in the rapid establishment of new emergency units, the modernizing of fire stations, and the deployment of trained personnel into regions once left vulnerable. Inspired by the structure of rapid response military units, fire and rescue teams were reorganized to act with speed, coordination, and professionalism. But perhaps Traore's greatest strength is not in lawmaking, it is in listening. He is often seen visiting fire stations across the country, talking with firefighters not as subordinates, but as brothers and sisters in service. He dines with them. He hears their concerns. He acknowledges their sacrifices. For him, unity is not commanded, it is earned. This connection has breathed new life into the force. Morale is high. Recruitment has risen. Public trust has deepened. Firefighters now speak not only of duty, but of dignity of being recognized as the nation's first line of defense against danger not from guns, but from flame, flood, and fear. Through his leadership, Captain Ibrahim Traore has elevated the image of the firefighter from technician to national protector, from responder to symbol of resilience. In doing so, he has reminded his country and the world that strength lies not only in might, but in mercy. His message is clear. Burkina Faso does not only raise warriors, it raises guardians. And through this transformation, Traore has lit a fire of service that burns across the entire nation. In the heart of West Africa, a quiet revolution is unfolding not through politics or profit, but through knowledge. Burkina Faso, long considered one of the most resilient nations in the Sahel, has become a regional lighthouse of learning for fire and rescue training. At the center of this transformation stands the Institute for Advanced Studies in Civil Protection, known as ICEPC. Based in Ouagadougou, this institution has redefined what it means to serve, teach, and protect. With its rigorous programs and field-based instruction, ICEPC has welcomed officers from across the continent not merely as students, but as future leaders. In July 2024, ICPC graduated its 12th cohort, 22 officers representing 13 African countries, including Rwanda, Burundi, Togo, Guinea, Senegal, Mali, and Niger. This wasn't just a ceremony, it was a symbol of unity, capacity, and African self-reliance. Each uniform bore a different flag, but each voice carried the same vow to protect and to serve with honor. The training covered not only technical modules like high-rise fire rescue and mass casualty response, but also leadership, prevention strategies, and ethical service. These officers did not just learn to extinguish fires, they learned how to become protectors of peace in times of chaos. For many nations, this model is revolutionary. In a continent often reliant on foreign training missions, Burkina Faso has turned the tide. Here, Africans train Africans with pride, with standards, and with a deep understanding of the communities they serve. Captain Ibrahim Traore has championed this vision with unwavering clarity. His administration has positioned ICPC not just as a national asset, but as a continental cornerstone, a place where knowledge replaces dependency, and where unity replaces hierarchy. The impact is already visible. Graduates of ISEPC are returning to their home countries to reform protocols, establish fire brigades, and train their own teams. Some are even collaborating across borders, forming a new Pan-African alliance of civil protection. Burkina Faso no longer stands in isolation. It stands at the center. From Ouagadougou, a flame of training and trust now spreads across the continent, proof that when Africans teach each other, they grow stronger together. In this quiet beacon of excellence, Africa is no longer waiting to be saved. It is learning to save itself, and Burkina Faso is leading the way. Behind every uniform is a story. Behind every rescue is a soul that chose courage over comfort and duty over fear. In Burkina Faso, the Fire and Rescue Force is not only a team of responders, it is a family of guardians who live their mission with quiet bravery. Some of these guardians never return from the field. They give everything, including their lives, to save strangers. Their names may not be known to the world, but in the hearts of their communities, they are eternal. Each medal of honor, each wreath laid during remembrance ceremonies, is not just tradition, it is testimony. Testimony to a promise fulfilled that no matter the risk, no life will be left behind. These stories are not rare. They are woven into the very identity of the force. In Ouagadougou, a team once entered a burning residential building to save children trapped on the third floor. The roof collapsed moments after the last child was pulled to safety. The crew walked out covered in soot, carrying silence heavier than flame but in their eyes, the spark of knowing they had given a family back their future. In Kaya, when flash floods swept through the town, fire personnel used ropes, makeshift rafts, and even their own bodies to form human chains. They rescued dozens from drowning, including the elderly and disabled in conditions most would run from. For them, there was no option to retreat. There was only the duty to reach one more hand. But the soul of service is not only about emergencies. It is also about legacy. On the 45th anniversary of the force, fire stations opened their doors to the children of firefighters. Young boys and girls climbed into fire trucks, touched helmets, learned to hold hoses, and listened to stories of bravery not from movies, but from their own parents. In the eyes of these children, something awoke pride, curiosity, and a dream. Many left that day saying, "I want to be like my father. I want to save lives like my mother." This is how Burkina Faso keeps its flame alive, not through fame, but through example, not through pressure, but through passion passed from one generation to the next. These men and women do not seek the spotlight. They seek to serve, and in doing so, they reveal the deepest truth about courage, that it often wears no crown, carries no flag, and stands in the rain when everyone else runs for shelter. In the soul of every Burkinabe firefighter is a quiet voice that says, "Let it be me. I will go." And because of them, countless others still live, breathe, and dream. For decades, Africa has been seen through a lens of dependency, portrayed as a continent waiting for help, for rescue, for solutions crafted elsewhere. But in Burkina Faso, that narrative is changing. Here, fire trucks do not wait for foreign donations. They are built, driven, and maintained by local hands. Training programs are not borrowed. They are born in Ouagadougou and shared across borders. The force is not a shadow of Western systems. It is a uniquely African answer to African challenges. Some skeptics in the international media have questioned the authenticity of these efforts, suggesting they are symbolic rather than strategic. But the numbers speak louder than opinion. Over 21,000 interventions in a single year. More than 22,000 lives impacted. A growing network of stations covering urban and rural zones alike. These are not headlines. They are lifelines. More importantly, the respect shown by neighboring countries who now send their own officers to train in Burkina Faso confirms the truth: Africa no longer looks outward for validation. It looks inward for strength. This is the new face of African resilience. Quiet, competent, self-determined. And Burkina Faso stands at the forefront not to ask for recognition, but to offer leadership. In challenging old perceptions, Burkina Faso has not raised its voice. It has simply done the work. And in doing so, it has become a model not of struggle, but of strength, the kind of strength that builds, heals, and saves. Burkina Faso is no longer just a name on a map. It is a symbol, a reminder that greatness does not always come from size, wealth, or recognition. Sometimes it comes from quiet resolve, from hearts that burn not with anger, but with purpose. Today, the fire that burns across Burkina Faso is not destructive. It is sacred. It lights hospital corridors during power outages. It clears roads after floods. It carries children out of burning homes. It rises in the eyes of every firefighter who wakes not for glory, but for duty. This fire is not fueled by oil or ambition. It is fueled by something deeper, by the belief that every life matters, that every hand deserves to be held, that even in a world where sirens often signal sorrow, they can also sing of salvation. Under Captain Ibrahim Traore's leadership, this fire has grown brighter. It has guided not only Burkina Faso, but an entire region toward a new vision of sovereignty, one built on protection, dignity, and unity. Other nations may measure strength by the size of their armies. Burkina Faso measures it by the number of lives saved, and in doing so, it has become the fire of Africa, a force of hope, of healing, and of humanity. May this flame never fade. May it continue to spread not as wildfire, but as wisdom, not as destruction, but as destiny. Burkina Faso, one people, one purpose, one flame.